Welcome everybody to a look at the brand new Universal Icons car pack. So yeah, this features 5 cars, technically only 3 really, but still, mainly got this car pack and I'm mainly reviewing it because of the first car that we're going to be looking at, but I'm also reviewing it because it's quite an expensive car pack at £7.99, which is quite steep for what is available. But still, let's look at the first car, which is a 1992 Jeep Wrangler Sahara. And yeah, as you can see, it's most famous for being in the film Jurassic Park, released 31 years ago. So yeah, a phenomenal film, groundbreaking film, just like Steven Spielberg's Jaws. Just yeah, completely shifted the kind of whole cinema landscape, quite frankly. And yeah, this car played quite a crucial part in that as well, because it was featured in several iconic scenes. Also took the main cast from the helicopter that they land on the island with to the main part of the park, and then we also had a really rather iconic car chase, well, say car chase scene between this and a T-Rex. And yeah, so yeah, overall a fantastic looking vehicle overall as well. I really do like the look of this car, and it is the first ever generation of the Wrangler, the YJ as it was known, and this was produced between 1986 and 1995, and this was basically, you know, AMC's initial attempt to make this car a more usable and more safe car over the CJ that came before it, which had lasted some 4 decades. So yeah, to make it, you know, safer and better to drive, it had a wider track, lower ground clearance, more comfort and improved handling. And yeah, that certainly would have helped when coming up against the T-Rex, but also so with the winch on the front, which is not standard to the car, but the front fog mounted headlamps certainly are. And yeah, you also have these half height doors with, you know, door pockets and stuff like that. That's basically what the Sahara is though. In terms of this car, it is a trim package. So you have these door pockets there. You've also got an AM FM radio with a cassette just down there, and yeah, all the dials you need to tell you what is going on with the vehicle. And then you've also got your very short speed well, you've got your low speed gearbox down there on the left, but then you've got your manual here on the right, which I think it's a manual. It was obviously being used as a manual in the chase scene with the T-Rex, but that doesn't look strictly like a manual, but it might well be in some regards. But yeah, you've also got the open top canopy. You've got the rear here where Jeff Goldblum was sat shouting "Must go faster, must go faster," which is nice to see. And then you can also give it the canopy as well, which I don't think we saw outside of maybe Dennis Nedry before he gets chomped on by the I've forgotten the name of it now, Dilophosaurus, something like that, but basically the one that spits venom and paralyzes you and then eats you while you're alive, which is very nice, sort of. But still, yeah, there were 685,000 of this generation of the Wrangler that were made, and it was the last of the Jeeps to have the full involvement of AMC, because they initially made this between 1986 and 1987, but then Chrysler bought out AMC purely because of the Jeep brand. They didn't see any profit outside of Jeep, to be honest, because yeah, Jeep was the most profitable part of AMC, as proven by this selling so many over such a relatively short period of time. And yeah, I'm really glad this is in the game, because we've never had this version of the Wrangler before. We've had newer versions. We've obviously had the CJ that preceded this, and we also obviously had the Willys Jeep, but we've never had this version before, which I'm really pleased we do have, to be honest. So, and yeah, one reason for that is the AMC engine it has underneath, which is a 4-litre inline-6 engine, producing 180 horsepower and 220 pounds-feet of torque, which is a fair decent amount, but it does at the end of the day weigh 3,173 pounds. So yeah, not much power for what kind of weight it has going on for it, but it's more than capable. It's a very reliable engine, I hear, and yeah, it's more than capable of obviously getting you through the rough stuff, so should you need to. So yeah, but let's nonetheless get it out onto the open road and see what this car can do. Right, so here we are at the drag strip. So there's no real point in doing an acceleration time or anything like that, but we may as well at least see what it can do. But we're not going to go around the track because at the end of the day this is an off-road vehicle. It's not really meant for any kind of high speed or track handling, but we will go on a little bit of an off-road course that I usually go out on with off-road vehicles like this. So yeah, let's see what 180 horsepower can do in a car like this. Not very much, as you can see. It's not quick at all. You can see why they initially struggled to get away from that T-Rex, because yeah, it's not quick off the line, and it's certainly not quick in terms of accelerating. It's very slow, in fact. It's getting there, it's getting there. And then we go into third speed, where we gain even less speed. So yeah, not particularly quick across the speed camera there, and that's because this is not a particularly quick car, as you've probably already gathered. So yeah, 0 to 60 is only dealt with in 11.9 seconds, which is not particularly fast, and 100 mile an hour is pretty much impossible unless you have a massive downhill slope, because it can only do 97 miles an hour. So yeah, not quick in that regard either. But as a dependable off-roader that you want to get away from all sorts of threats and through any kind of situations, and yeah, this is going to be ideal for the job. So yeah, perfectly good in that regard. And yeah, I like the fact that we finally got this version of the Wrangler in. Like I said, we've had newer versions, we had its predecessor, the CJ, but to finally have this version in with an official Jurassic Park paint job is more than welcome as far as I'm concerned. And even though it would make it one of the most expensive cars to buy for real in this game, via a DLC, kind of makes the car pack worth it, quite frankly, as far as I'm concerned. So yeah, and it's just real fun to just truck around. It's not quick or anything like that, we're only doing like 55 mile an hour, but it's just fun to do, truck it around an off-road course, and most cars do feel enjoyable to drive on when going off-road, even the slowest of vehicles. So yeah, it's more than able to satisfy that kind of aspect as far as I'm concerned. And yeah, it should be fun to drive on extreme off-road silly builds as well once we give it a few upgrades to see what it really can do. So yeah, really fun vehicle to drive, and it's nice to have something that I've seen many a time in an amazing film in one of my favourite games. So yeah, that's all of that going for it. So right, let's take a look now at 3 different versions of the same car from 3 films in a trilogy. Right, so here we have the DeLorean, most famous for being used in the Back to the Future series, all 3 films, with the first one I think was in 1985, and yeah, an iconic film car, quite frankly, although not a car that you'd particularly want to own because it was absolutely useless in a lot of ways. But still, as far as cars go in films, yeah, you'd struggle to get more iconic than this, quite frankly. And yeah, they've put all 3 versions of the car in this game. So we have this version from the first film, which is fairly basic, to be honest. There's not massive amounts of extras that have been put onto this car, although the original car did weigh 2,844 pounds, whereas this version weighs 2,910 pounds, which is the same weight as the second version of the car as well. But yeah, still, you have the usual basic aspects to the car. So you got your front with the spare wheel, but you cannot see the engine for the life of you because it is buried in time machine gubbings. And yeah, the interior has been lovingly recreated, as you can see. So that's the main reason why I feel like this car pack is as expensive as it is purely because of the amount of detail that's been put into these Back to the Future cars, as well as the other car that we'll look at after these 3. But yeah, obviously the Jeep Wrangler was just basically a paint job, whereas this obviously has a completely reworked interior. All of the buttons are in the right place, all of them look authentic, and then when you start the car up, not only do you get the engine going and the lights on the outside, but you also get the dates that are on the film as well. So we start off in October 26th 1985, and then we travel back to November 12th 1955. So yeah, it's just a really well done recreation, to be honest. And this is the kind of thing that Forza have done well in the past, We've obviously had, this isn't obviously the first time we've ever had movie cars or even cars from games. We've had the cyberpunk car. We had one of the cars from Fallout series, and we've had obviously the Warthog from the Halo series. So yeah, this is nothing new to the Forza series, but obviously there's a lot more seemingly detail to go into doing these, quite frankly. So yeah, good looking vehicle, to be honest, when it's got all its gubbins on, but I'm not particularly a fan of the way it looks even in stock form. Alright, and then we have the one from the second film. So the big difference with this is the way that it was actually powered to get it through, you know, in time. And that's because it's got the Mr. Fusion on the back, which we can actually open up, which is cool. So yeah, you can basically put anything in that to get it going. I think it's like a banana peel, a Coke can, or a beer can, some eggs, and such that are put into the vehicle when Doc Brown wants to get it going again. And this is obviously the version of the car that flew. Unfortunately, we can't do that in this game. I don't think the physics would allow it, to be honest. But yeah, everything else is still here. We've still got the same front, and the interior is broadly the same. I'm sure there's some differences that somebody will be able to tell me about, but yeah, broadly the same. And when you turn it on again, you get the same engine noise, same lights on the outside, but different dates this time, as we not only go from October 26th, 1985, but then we go to October 21st, 2015, and then eventually back to November 12th, 1955 by accident. So yeah, that's the main difference in terms of the interior, to be honest. I'm sure there are other differences in here, but even though I've seen the films many a time, I'm not a massive, massively knowledgeable on the ins and outs of the cars overall. But again, this does weigh 2,910 pounds, but because of the Mr. Fusion, it's a little slower at the top end by a couple of miles an hour due to the lack of aerodynamics. So yeah. And then finally we have the one that is the most radically different over the first car in the first film, and that's from the third film, is this one. And that's purely because, well, it's more capable off-road, because it's got increased ground clearance, it's got these 1950s skinny white wall tyres, you've also got the elements on the bonnet there from the 1950s to get it going. You've still got the Mr. Fusion though at the back. And the interior has also slightly been changed. I do seem to remember someone saying the wires on the right were on the left in the other cars. But yeah, that's a main difference apparently. And obviously if we turn it on, we once again have different times and dates. So yeah, September 2nd, 1885, to then November 12th, 1955, and then October 26th, 1985. So yeah, and October 26, 1985 is where this car meets its demise, because obviously it does get completely wiped out by a train, which is a heartbreaking thing to see, to be honest, especially when you're a kid and you've enjoyed those films for all of that time. But still, we're going to take this one out because it is the most different to the standard DeLorean, which we've obviously already reviewed either on this game or a previous one. So yeah, let's get out onto the open road and see what this car can do. Right, so here we are with the off-road version of the DeLorean. So yeah, it's not particularly quick. It in fact weighs 2,932 pounds, so that's not only 22 pounds heavier than the previous two versions of the car in the previous two films, but it's also a lot heavier than the standard DeLorean from the early 80s. So yeah, so let's see what it can do, which is not much because it, like all three cars, shares the same miserable 2.9 litre V6 engine, which was made between Renault, Peugeot and Volvo. It's called the PRV engine for Peugeot, Renault, Volvo, which only produces 130 horsepower and 160 pounds-feet of torque, which is not enough whatsoever. And as you can see, it struggles to get to 88 miles an hour, but when it does, as you can see, it lights up, which is a really rather nice little treat, to be honest. But yeah, this car was always a joke. It was in fact a punchline in the first film. You made a time machine out of a DeLorean, and yeah, that's the point. You see, there's plenty of wedge-shaped cars you could have made a car out of from the time. You could have had a Lotus Esprit, for instance, and that would have been A, a lot cooler, and B, a lot quicker. But I guess that wouldn't have worked quite as much as a joke, because yeah, this was clearly a joke kind of car by the time the first film came out. Less than 10,000 were made, the whole company was shrouded in scandal of drugs and embezzling money and such, and yeah, all you had really to see for all of that was a car that wasn't particularly quick, was a miserable amalgamation of all sorts of different parts from all sorts of different companies, and yeah, it was pathetically slow. Now granted though, the standard version without all of the movie extras could do 0 to 60 in less than 9.5 seconds, so could have been worse, but this version 0 to 60 in 11.481 seconds, which is more than a second slower than the first version from the first film. Weirdly though, it apparently can go to 60 a little bit quicker in 30.573 seconds, but it's way slower at the top end at only 108 miles an hour. That's 5 miles an hour slower than the first version from the first film. So yeah, but this does actually have more off-road capability. It actually shows that in the stats. I'll show you that before we take a look at our final vehicle. And yeah, I guess it's reasonably fun to go off-roading with, but nowhere near as fun as the Wrangler was, and nowhere near as capable either. And yeah, it was given this off-road suspension and, you know, different tyres purely because in 1955 he's having to get, well, Marty McFly's trying to get a run up basically in an area that is going to be a desert by the time he gets into the future, I think it is, but then he ends up going into the past by accident, and yeah, being in a desert off-roading, you don't want a loadsome car because you're going to damage something. But in fact he also damages something anyway regardless, because he backs up onto a rock, blows the fuel tank, and that's why we need a train to get this car up to 88 miles an hour in the final act of the film. So yeah, it's not a particularly great car, but it is an iconic movie car, and that at the end of the day is enough for some people, and it does look the part, which again is always a good thing. So yeah, I'll just quickly show you the fact that this does have more off-road capability than its brethren. So yeah, as you can see, 5.8 for the second film, 5.9 for this one. Although as you can see, the handling is way worse because it has the off-road suspension and the you know, the skinnier 50s white walls. So yeah, but nonetheless, let's get our back to the auto show and take a look at the final car in this car pack. And here is the final car in the car pack, the 1982 Pontiac Trans Am, which is the base for the K.I.T.T vehicle from the TV series Knight Rider. So yeah, K.I.T.T stood for Knight Industries 2000, and yeah, David Hasselhoff ran the hell out of this car for 4 seasons. I think it was like 90 episodes, something like that. Not seen the series myself, although obviously I have heard of it. Unfortunately, we can't look at this car in too much detail because we can't look under the bonnet or in the boot, but the main point of this car is the fact that it's got the interior from the TV series, which again, like the Back to the Future vehicles, has been lovingly recreated. So you've got the yoke steering wheel, you've got all of the buttons that do all of the things in the world, everything from, you know, missiles or ejecting people from your seats and such, and then you've got the head-up display as well, which I think we can turn on. Let's see. There's a light at the front to show that K.I.T.T is alive and well, and yeah, revving it, and you can see the digital gauge for the rev counter there. And then you got the speedometer on the left, and all of the lights are up, which is cool. So yeah, this is the most powerful and fastest vehicle out of the car pack because it has a ginormous 6.2 litre V8 producing 495 horsepower and 470 pounds-feet of torque, and it also has pop-up headlights, which makes it instantly cool. So yeah, there were a few differences. Well, I say a few. Obviously, the interior was different, but the main difference between this and the standard car, outside of the massive amount of power, is the fact it was dropped by 1.5 inches in ride height. Not sure why. Maybe just to make it look a little sleeker and lower. And it apparently cost $100,000 for Universal to make, or NBC as it was the channel, to make back in the early 80s, which is obviously a hell of a lot of money to spend on a car. Pretty sure most other supercars weren't even that much. So yeah, but nonetheless, let's get out onto the open road and see what this car can do. Right, so here we are at the drag strip, so let's see what it can do before it hit the speed camera, and then we'll get it around the track, because yeah, this is clearly the only track-worthy car out of this car pack. So let's see what it can do. A decent revving engine, no idea where the engine is from or anything like that. I tried to find stuff out about it, but just couldn't, so yeah, but it's certainly way more powerful than any other V8 powered engine car from the time. Corvette, eat your heart out, so yeah. More than 137 miles an hour there, which is pretty good. And yeah, it handles fairly well, to be honest, considering all the power that's going through it and the fact it's not been massively changed. You know, it's still rear-wheel drive, still an American muscle car for what was an American muscle car at the time, which wasn't particularly great, to be honest. Yeah, and I know it sounds like it has a supercharger, but it doesn't. It could just be a whine that is there to make it sound like it does, or from the gearbox or something or other, because it certainly doesn't have a standard gearbox. But yeah, still, let's take a look at the stats. So we're in mid-A class, which again is the highest in the car pack, and yeah, really great top speed, acceleration. Don't know why it's so low, because it is actually pretty good, and the braking and handling are fairly decent as well. Although there is something you can do to this car, which I'll show you after we go around the track, that is a little bit able to make this a bit better in terms of handling and braking. So yeah, we'll only do one lap with this one, just because I want to show you off what you can do to it. But yeah, we will, as per usual, take a listen to the car first, and then we'll talk about it some more. So yeah, I do like the wheels that this has going on. Again, I don't know if they're standard to the car or not, but I do like the blacked out Pontiac badge and the black wheels. But still, let's see what it sounds like, and then we'll talk about it some more. So yeah, it's a really rather good sounding engine, to be honest. Yeah, you've got a 6-speed gearbox to help make the most of all of that power. It would have been pretty useless if it only had a 4-speed. And yeah, 0 to 60 is dealt with in 4.187 seconds. 0 to 100 is dealt with in 8.885 seconds. And it going to a top speed of 207 miles an hour, which is comfortably going to be faster than any other car from that period. Even the Ferrari F40 could only get up to 201, so yeah, although unlike in the Ferrari F40, I doubt this car would have felt safe or stable or fun at all at that kind of speed. But yeah, we can also look at the interior while we're on the go. So as you can see, you've got your speedometer on the left and your RPMs on the right, which is nice and cool. It's not often you'd get a car from the early 80s with a rev counter in America, so yeah, that's all well and good. So yeah, there's it on the track. It's more than capable, a lot more capable than I was expecting it to be honest. So yeah, let's quickly get back to the auto show, and I'll show you one more thing with this car pack. Right, so you're probably thinking, what else can you do with this? Well, you can actually give it a body kit, and it's a body kit that I believe is in the series, and it basically does this. Basically expands it into this amalgamation of things. So yeah. The front extends outwards with the front prow being now a front splitter effectively. The bonnet rises up. You got the rear rising up as well with a massive rear spoiler. Not sure what is in the rear there. Could be like more armaments or something like that. Then you got the vents that sprout out the side like a Lamborghini Countach, and then you got the front like little splitters on the front there on the sides. And yeah, that actually, as you can see by the stats, improves the handling, the acceleration, the launch, and the braking. Now, why would it improve the braking? Well, let's take a look at why that would happen. Can't think of any reason why the braking wouldn't be improved by a body kit of all things. You'd expect it to be worse, given it's going to add weight. But yeah, obviously the top speed is also affected. It reduces to about 196. because it's got that giant rear spoiler on the back. But yeah, let's take a look at why the braking is improved. So yeah, we'll get up to a little bit of speed and see what happens when we slam on when we get to say 100-ish amounts of miles an hour. So let's just get up some good speed, going our loins a little bit, and braking. It's got air brakes. Yes, like a NASCAR when it's going out of control, it's got air brakes. How cool is that? And yet they do actually work in terms of the brakes, because yeah, it improves the stats. So yeah, the braking is made better because of a massive body kit with air brakes. So yeah, overall a cool car pack. It's not going to be for everyone, especially if you're not into the TV series or you know the movies that the cars are from, and especially if you are looking for some serious races, because I doubt any of these are going to be pretty good in terms of racing online or anything like that. But as something that is adding cars to the game, adding cars that we've never had to the game, because at the end of the day we've never had the Jeep Wrangler version before, we've never had this version of the Trans Am before. Yes, we've had the DeLorean, but it's also nice to have versions of that from the film, because we've only ever had the standard version from the early 80s. So yeah, it's overall a decent car pack. It is expensive, like I said, at £7.99. There have been car packs that they've released that have been cheaper than that have had more unique cars, but at the end of the day it's a bit of fun, and yeah, it's in addition to all of the great Forza Festival cars that we're getting as well from Thursday onwards, which I'm really looking forward to. So yeah, but nonetheless, thank you for watching. I'd like to hear your thoughts on this car pack, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.